Hello everyone, happy holidays. I love this time of year. It's a little bit chilly outside and I hope that you and your loved ones are doing great. Fertility Journal's here. If you're new, thank you for watching. I decided to start this YouTube channel as a way to motivate, inspire, and encourage others because I was able to receive the same when I was undergoing my 12 IVF cycles. And I vowed to God that if I was shown favor in this process, that I would hop onto this space and be able to give that same energy back that could be a motivation for anybody watching. So if you're new, please go ahead and subscribe. My YouTube channel is a journal of my experiences and my thoughts. And I do have the 12 IVF cycles all vlogged. I will leave a link in the information bar, and I also do every once in a while hop up and do a vlog, but then I do hop on here whenever I receive a question that many people are asking to be able to answer that question. Today I'm going to share with you a question that I often get, which is, why did I not use donor egg? Because obviously people get surprised that I did 12 cycles of IVF. So if you're interested as to the reason my husband and I did not use donor egg, stay tuned. Our diagnosis was diminished ovarian reserve, poor response. I was perimenopausal, headed towards perimenopause, and I had an MH of 0.1 and an FSH of 24. So for those of you who are familiar with diagnosis, it made perfect sense. Now that I look back, at the time I wasn't happy, but now that I look back, that the doctor I started working with had suggested donor IVF. This is because if I had undergone a donor IVF cycle, I would have probably needed just one cycle and I would have probably been successful. It would also have costed us, it wouldn't have costed us a lot of money. Because as you know, IVF is really, really expensive. So I think in responsible medicine, it was really good advice, particularly because everybody's situation is different. And obviously now looking back, I can kind of see why my doctor suggested donor egg IVF. However, my husband and I were contemplating the pathway of our journey to start with genetic egg first. As you folks know, I share on my channel, I actually decided to just make sense out of everything by writing down before I started my IVF journey the pathways to baby. So for us, and for what I commonly share on my channel, there are 5 pathways to baby. There is genetic egg, donor egg, embryo donation, then there is fostering, and there is adoption. And we also had looked into if something was wrong and I wasn't able to carry a pregnancy, there is surrogacy, and there is gestational surrogacy and traditional surrogacy. And so with the types of surrogacy, there is one where if you have an embryo with your husband or partner or significant other, then a surrogate can carry that baby for you. So that was the surrogacy that we were going to look into if the testing proved that I could not carry a pregnancy. And as you guys know, there's the other type of surrogacy where a person may use the surrogate's egg and the husband, partner, significant others, little guys, to be able to have the baby. So hopefully that kind of lets you know a little bit about the planning. So we then decided to at least try. I would say that would be the first reason why we did not go into donor egg, is we wanted to give ourselves a chance, because I had never really tried, and you can hear my bubble in the background. I had never really tried IVF, and so I just thought it was I needed to just give it a try, and I wanted to make sure that I had maximized the first pathway before moving on to the second pathway. So I would say that would be the first reason why we did not go to donor IVF. The second reason I did not go into donor IVF, despite multiple failures of IVF, was because I learned that I was being involved in a hunt. I started learning about my body and the process. I learned about my diagnosis of age-related infertility, and I started looking up information about it. And what I discovered is that for individuals like myself with my diagnosis, IVF was not going to work the first few times. And even though the journey is not guaranteed, that awareness really helped, because then I was able to undergo multiple cycles, really knowing that that was really going to be my experience, and it really made it a little bit easier to handle. The third reason we decided not to use donor IVF is that I discovered there were different types of IVF. I will say that this was really a game changer for us, because guys, at the time that I started, there was only the conventional IVF, and people called it IVF. Like, everybody who did conventional, they said, I'm doing IVF, I'm doing IVF. So I thought that there was only one type. And what allowed us not to use donor egg was realizing, when we did research, that there was mini IVF, and that there were doctors who were specialists in that, and that they worked with women who really wanted to have their own genetic children. And so mini IVF was amazing. In fact, because part of my diagnosis is diminished reserve and being a poor responder and perimenopausal, what happens with women like myself is that we don't have a lot of eggs to begin with. And so with conventional IVF, when I went through it, they gave me all these meds. My poor eggs were shriveling to death, and I only had one egg left, and then they reverted into an IUI. So it's like I just felt like my eggs never had a chance. But then with mini IVF, they were able to mature my eggs. So even if the eggs ended up not being viable, I was able to have those milestones that allowed my eggs to have a chance. And I continued, and the hunt, which is really pseudonym for embryo banking, is getting to that egg that has a high chance. And we eventually got to it. And so mini IVF was really, really a game changer for us. And I have to say, one of the reasons why we did not use donor egg IVF. The fourth reason why we did not use donor egg IVF is that we had a protocol that was really successful in maturing our eggs. And so undergoing those multiple cycles was eventually a game changer for us. It was very purposeful and intentful. We did not start thinking that we were going through multiple cycles, but when we started realizing that the protocol we had was giving our eggs a chance. And so in a nutshell, guys, the protocol that we used that gave every embryo and every egg of mine a chance was one of the reasons why we did not need to go to donor IVF. The fifth reason I can share as to the reason why we did not have to go to donor egg, despite my diagnosis predicting that I should immediately probably use donor egg, is because I worked with the clinic after changing doctors. I think I changed doctors about 3 times. I worked with my first doctor who had recommended a donor egg IVF. Then we decided to move on to a different doctor. And the reason we did so was because it was actually during the pandemic, and there was only few clinics that were not affiliated with the hospital setting that were working with women of advanced maternal age. And so I switched to a new doctor for that reason. And then I went back to the old doctor after I had discovered mini IVF. The second doctor I switched to actually was the one I attempted the conventional IVF, and then it failed and was reverted to an IUI, which also failed. So then I went back to the original doctor because I really liked that doctor, and I proposed for them to do mini IVF. I actually did propose mini IVF to both my doctors. The second doctor said that they would actually have to get permission from the board to be able to tweak, because they used a standard protocol at their clinics. And the first doctor was willing to try, and they actually had already gotten a protocol together. So when I discovered my third doctor, Dr. Frank Yelian of the Life IVF Center, he was the reason I wanted to go with him, was because, again, through advocating for myself and asking questions, I thought that that was the right way to go. What Dr. Frank Yelian had that was really, really enticing for us was, number one, data. So there was data for women my age who had been successful, and the probability of how many attempted cycles they had, their ability to reach blastocyst stage. They had data on all that. So I liked that I was working with a doctor who was working with women my age and women with my diagnosis, and they were able to quote that as we were doing the consultation. So having that data was so motivating, guys, and so empowering, because now I had a frame of reference that I could use and compare myself to, and be able to have that hope. Because for those of us where IVF does not work for the first few times, it's kind of like you're going on this journey on your own, and it can be absolutely nerve-wracking. And so the fact that there was other women and they had had a measure of success gave us hope. And not that it was guaranteed, because not for every woman is this process guaranteed, and you guys know that. But I think just having that information was really helpful, and it helped us go on, which is one of the other reasons why we did not have to use donor egg IVF. And so folks, in a nutshell, those are the reasons why we did not use donor egg IVF. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, please join the family. I do think conversations like this are important, and I hope that you find this work inspirational, motivational, and encouraging. And maybe you can refer this information to a friend. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching. Until my next video, bye.